Mastering English Verb Forms, Gerunds and Infinitives. Introduction. Do you ever stop and wonder, should I say I like swimming or I like to swim? Or maybe you think she decided to go, but then you wonder if she decided going is also okay? If these small questions about words have made you think hard or feel unsure about your English, you are not the only one. Many people learning English find this part tricky. Even people who speak English well sometimes make mistakes here. It does not mean you are bad at English. It just means some verbs in English can be a little confusing. When you are not sure, you might speak or write a little slowly and it might not sound as smooth as you want. This book will help you understand and use these common English verb forms, gerunds and infinitives. Think of them as two different ways verbs can act. A gerund is a verb that is used like a noun. You can usually see a gerund because it ends in ing. For example, in the sentence running is fun, the word running is a verb, but here it is the subject of the sentence. It is the thing that is fun. Also, if you say, I enjoy reading, the word reading is what you enjoy. It is acting like a noun. An infinitive is usually the basic form of a verb, and it often has to before it. So, when you say, I want to eat, the words to eat tell us what you want. Or, he needs to study. The words to study show what he must do. The hard part for many learners is knowing which form to use after certain other verbs. Knowing when to use a gerund or an infinitive is not just about knowing a grammar rule. It is about making your English sound good and clear. When you know these forms well, you can speak without worrying. Your talks will be smoother and sound more natural. Imagine speaking without that little voice asking, did I say that right? When you write, using the right form makes your sentences clear and sound professional. Your emails, stories, and even simple messages will look better and have more impact. By learning this common challenge, you are getting past a big step and moving closer to speaking and writing English more easily and correctly. This book will make gerunds and infinitives easy to understand. We will not just give you rules. We will help you truly understand them. We will show you the verbs that always come before gerunds. Then we will look at the verbs that always come before infinitives. We will also talk about verbs that can use either form, and we will explain how choosing one over the other can sometimes change the meaning a little. You will see many real examples that show these rules working. This will help you see how they are used in everyday English. We will also explore how gerunds and infinitives can be used in other parts of a sentence. Our goal is to give you clear help and practice so you feel very sure of yourself. You can learn to use English verb forms well. With clear explanations and helpful practice, you will soon use gerunds and infinitives easily and correctly. Get ready to make your English better. 1. Understanding gerunds and infinitives. Sometimes, learning English grammar can feel like trying to sort through a big box of tools. You see many things that look alike, and you're not always sure which one to use for a job. This is often how it is with gerunds and infinitives. They both come from verbs, and they can sometimes seem to do similar things, which can make choosing the right one feel a bit confusing. But don't worry. Once we understand what each one is and what it does, it becomes much clearer. Think of me as your helpful guide, here to help you sort through those tools and use them perfectly. Let's start by looking at the gerund. Imagine a verb like swim. If we add ing to it, we get swimming. Now, swimming can be used in different ways. Sometimes, it's part of a verb that tells us what someone is doing right now, like she is swimming. But a gerund is special because it takes that ting verb and uses it like a noun. What does it mean to act like a noun? Well, nouns are words for people, places, things, or ideas. They can be the subject of a sentence, the thing doing the action, or the object of a sentence, the thing receiving the action. When a gerund acts like a noun, it can do those same jobs. For example, consider the sentence, "Swimming is good exercise." Here, swimming isn't telling us that someone is swimming right now. Instead, it's the topic of the sentence. It's the thing that is good exercise. We could replace swimming with another noun, like football or yoga, and the sentence would still make sense. Football is good exercise. Yoga is good exercise. Because swimming is acting like a noun, it's a gerund. Here's another example. I enjoy reading. In this sentence, reading is the thing that I enjoy. It's the object of the verb enjoy. Again, we could replace reading with a noun like books or music. I enjoy books. I enjoy music. Since reading is acting as the object of the verb, it's a gerund. So, the key thing to remember about a gerund is that it's a verb ending in ing, and its job in the sentence is to be a noun. It's like giving a verb a new role to play in the sentence, the role of a noun. Now, let's turn our attention to the infinitive. An infinitive is usually the basic form of a verb with to placed in front of it. So, run becomes to run, eat becomes to eat, and think becomes to think. These are infinitives. Infinitives are very useful in English. One of their most common jobs is to show purpose. Why did someone do something? The answer often uses an infinitive. For instance, I went to the store to buy milk. The purpose of going to the store was to buy milk. The infinitive to buy tells us the reason. We can also use infinitives in other ways. Sometimes, an infinitive can act like a noun, just like a gerund. For example, to err is human. Here, to err is the subject of the sentence. It's the thing that is human. We could replace it with a noun like mistakes. Mistakes are human. So, in this case, the infinitive is acting as a noun. Another example, she wants to learn English. In this sentence, to learn English is what she wants. It's the object of the verb wants. It works like a noun phrase. So we see that both gerunds and infinitives can sometimes act like nouns. This is where the confusion often starts. How can we tell them apart? The most important difference isn't just how they look, but what they do in the sentence. Let's try an example. Imagine you have a toolbox. You have a hammer and a screwdriver. Both are tools, but you use them for different jobs. A hammer is for hitting nails. A screwdriver is for turning screws. Gerunds and infinitives are like these different tools. A gerund, remember, is always an ing verb acting as a noun. It's like a special tool for being a noun. When you see an ing word, you need to ask, is it describing an action happening now like he is running? Or is it acting like a thing or an idea like running is good for you? If it's acting like a thing or an idea, it's a gerund. An infinitive, usually to+verb, is another kind of tool. It's often used to explain why something is happening purpose, or it can also act as a noun, an adjective, or even an adverb in different situations. The main challenge in learning English verb forms comes when we have another verb before the gerund or infinitive. For example, we say I enjoy swimming, but we say I want to swim. Why swimming after enjoy and to swim after want? This is the main puzzle we'll be solving in this book. But before we can solve that puzzle, it's very important to have a good understanding of what gerunds and infinitives are on their own. Let's go back to finding gerunds. How can you be completely sure that an ing word is a gerund and not part of a verb that shows an action happening over time? This is a very good question, and it gets to the heart of the confusion. Think about how sentences are built. In a verb showing action over time, the ing verb is usually paired with a form of the verb to be. For example, he is playing the guitar. Here, is playing is the verb part. Playing is part of the verb, showing an action happening now. They were talking loudly. Here, we're talking is the verb part. Talking is part of the verb, showing an action that was happening in the past. In these cases, playing and talking are not nouns. They are important parts of the verb that tell us about the action itself. Now, compare this to a gerund. Playing the guitar is his hobby. Here, there is no to be verb right before playing. Instead, playing the guitar is the subject of the sentence. It's the thing that is his hobby. We could say, music is his hobby. I love talking to people. Here, talking to people is the object of the verb love. It's the thing that I love doing. We could say, I love conversations. So, the easiest way to tell if any word is a gerund is to see if it's acting as a noun subject or object, and if it's not part of a to be plus-ing verb phrase. If it's standing alone as a noun, it's a gerund. What about the different jobs of infinitives? We've seen them used to show purpose, I need to study, and as nouns to know her is to love her. But they can do more. Infinitives can also act like adjectives. They describe nouns. For example, I have a lot of work to do. Here, to do describes the work. It tells us what kind of work it is, work that needs to be done. It's like saying I have urgent work or I have difficult work. The infinitive phrase to do is adding more information about the noun work. Infinitives can also act like adverbs. They explain why an action is done or provide more information about a verb, adjective, or another adverb. For example, I am happy to help. Here, to help explains why I am happy. It's like saying I am happy because I can help or I am happy to be able to help. The infinitive phrase to help adds meaning to the adjective happy. Another example, she learned to swim quickly. Here, to swim tells us what she learned. It's the object of learned, acting as a noun. But in she swam to the shore is a phrase showing direction. The infinitive to swim in she learned to swim is different. It's the thing she learned. It's amazing how these simple verb forms can take on so many different jobs within a sentence, isn't it? They are the building blocks that allow us to express complex ideas and connections between actions and things. So, to summarize, a gerund is a verb ending in ing that acts as a noun. It can be a subject or an object. You can usually spot it because it's not part of a to be plus ing verb phrase. An infinitive is usually to plus verb. It can show purpose, act as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Understanding these individual roles is the first and most important step. It's like learning the alphabet before you can read a book. Once you can clearly identify a gerund and an infinitive, and you understand what job each is doing in a sentence, you're well on your way to learning when to use them after other verbs. Now that we have a clear understanding of what gerunds and infinitives are as individual word forms, we are ready to explore the exciting, and sometimes tricky, part, discovering which verbs prefer to be followed by a gerund and which prefer an infinitive. This will be our focus as we move from understanding the pieces to seeing how they fit together in complete sentences. 2. Rules for using gerunds. Let's look at English verbs and how they can do different jobs. You already know verbs can show action, but they can also act like names of things. Today, we will talk about a very important way they do this, using the ing ending. We call this a gerund. Think of it as a verb dressed up as a noun. Imagine a student named Maria. Maria loves to travel. She wanted to tell her friend about her dream trip. She thought, I want to visit Japan. But then she thought about what she really wanted to do there. She wanted to see the pretty flowers, taste the food, and learn about the culture. She tried to say it all. I want to see cherry blossoms. I want to taste sushi. I want to learn Japanese culture. It sounded a bit broken, right? Her friend smiled and said, Maria, you can say that more smoothly. Maria felt stuck. She knew the words, but putting them together felt hard. Then her teacher explained gerunds. The teacher said, think of verb plus ing as a thing, a noun. So, instead of saying I want to see cherry blossoms, you can say I want seeing cherry blossoms. Or even better, I love traveling to new places. Maria's eyes lit up. This was it. She understood that after some verbs, you don't use to plus verb. You use the ing form. It was like a light bulb turned on. Suddenly, her sentences about Japan sounded much more natural. I enjoy exploring new cities, she practiced. I dream about trying new foods. This new knowledge made her feel much more sure of herself. This is what we want you to feel too. Gerunds are a basic part of English. Knowing when to use them will help you make smoother, more correct sentences. What is a gerund? Before we learn the rules, let's make sure we all know what a gerund is. Remember, a gerund is a verb ending in ing that acts like a noun. It's not an action happening right now that's called a present participle. It's the idea or the activity of the verb itself. Let's look at simple examples to see how it acts like a noun. Swimming is good exercise. Here, swimming is the main part of the sentence that tells us what is good exercise. It's the thing. We could say tennis is good exercise. I enjoy reading. Here, reading is the thing that I enjoy. It comes right after the verb enjoy. We could say, I enjoy books. So, a gerund is a verb that becomes a noun by adding ing. It can be the subject of a sentence, the main thing, the object of a verb, the thing being acted upon, or the object of a preposition, a small word like in or on. For this part, we will focus on when a gerund comes after another verb. This is where many students get confused, and knowing the rules helps a lot. Rule 1. Verbs followed by gerunds, the enjoy list. There is a special group of verbs in English that are almost always followed by a gerund. Think of these verbs as having a special friend, the ing form. When you use one of these verbs, the next verb in the sentence should be in its gerund form. It is very helpful to learn these verbs. It might seem like memorizing, but it's like learning the rules for a game. Once you know the rules, you can play the game, speak and write with confidence. Here is a list of common verbs that are usually followed by a gerund. We will add more later, but this is a good start. Enjoy. This means to like doing something or get pleasure from it. Example: I enjoy playing chess. Not I enjoy to play chess. Example: she enjoys watching movies. Finish. This means to complete something. Example: he finished painting the fence. Not he finished to paint the fence. Example: we finished eating dinner late. Mind. This means to be bothered by something. We often use it in questions or when saying no. Example: do you mind closing the window? Not do you mind to close the window? Example: I don't mind helping you. Avoid. This means to stay away from something. Example: try to avoid making the same mistake again. Not try to avoid to make. Example: he avoids talking to his neighbor. Suggest. This means to give an idea. Example: I suggest visiting the museum. Not I suggest to visit. Example: she suggested going for a walk. Deny. This means to say something is not true. Example: he denied stealing the money. Not he denied to steal. Example: she denied knowing anything about the plan. Admit. This means to say you did something wrong or that something is true. Example: he admitted cheating on the test. Not he admitted to cheat. Example: she admitted making a mistake. Postpone. This means to delay something until a later time. Example: they postponed launching the new product. Not they postponed to launch. Example: we had to postpone meeting them. Consider. This means to think about something carefully. Example: I'm considering moving to a new city. Not I'm considering to move. Example: he is considering changing his job. Practice. This means to do something often to get better at it. Example: You need to practice speaking English every day. Not you need to practice to speak. Example. She practices playing the piano for hours. Keep. This means to continue doing something. Example. Keep trying and you will succeed. Not keep to try. Example. Please keep sending me updates. Why is it important for learners to remember common verbs that always take a gerund, and how does it help them in practice? It's important because English has many set ways of putting words together. Just like you can't always change the order of words in a phrase without it sounding strange, certain verbs always go with the gerund. Remembering these common verbs is like learning the basic words for this grammar rule. The practical help is huge. When you know that verbs like enjoy, finish, or avoid are followed by gerunds, you automatically know which form to use. This saves you from stopping to think, from making mistakes, and from sounding unnatural. Instead of guessing, you can speak and write with confidence. It makes you more fluent and accurate. Think of how relieved Maria was when she realized she didn't have to guess. She just had to remember which verbs like thing form. This knowledge lets your mind focus on what you want to say, not just how to say it correctly. It's a direct way to communicate more clearly. Rule 2. Prepositions followed by gerunds that after rule. This rule is very important and almost always true. Prepositions are small words like in, on, at, for, about, of, without, by, after, before. They often show how a noun or pronoun connects to another word in the sentence. Here is the simple rule. Prepositions are almost always followed by a gerund. This rule is powerful because it works whether the preposition comes right after a verb or is part of a longer phrase. You will often find these prepositions after verbs that talk about feelings, opinions, or states of being. Let's look at some examples. About. He is thinking about buying a new car. Not he is thinking about to buy. We talked about going to the park. After. After finishing his work, he went home. Here, after starts a phrase and finishing is the gerund. She felt much better after talking to her friend. Before. Please wash your hands before eating. He always checks his email before starting his day. By. You can improve your English by practicing regularly. Not by to practice. She learned to swim by watching others. For. Thank you for helping me. Not for to help. This is a good tool for cutting paper. In. She is interested in learning French. Not in to learn. He succeeded in passing the exam. Of. I dream of traveling the world. Not of to travel. She is afraid of flying. On. We are counting on you helping us. Not on you to help. He insisted on paying for the meal. Without. Don't leave without saying goodbye. Not without to say. He managed to escape without being caught. At. She is good at solving puzzles. Not at to solve. He is skilled at playing the guitar. How does understanding that a gerund is a noun help a learner know when to use it, especially after prepositions? This is a very important point. When you know that a gerund is a noun, you can see why it fits after a preposition. Prepositions, by their nature, introduce noun phrases. They connect ideas to nouns or noun-like things. So, when you see a preposition like about, for, or in, your brain should look for a noun or something that acts like a noun to come next. Thing form of a verb, the gerund, is perfect for this job. Think of it this way. A preposition needs a thing to connect to. I'm thinking about what? About something. That something can be a noun, a new car, or a gerund buying a new car. The gerund buying acts as the noun that the preposition about connects to the verb thinking. This understanding helps you guess correctly. If you see a preposition, and the next word is a verb, you can be almost sure that the verb needs to be in its gerund form to act as the noun that the preposition. 3. Rules for using infinitives. Sometimes, when we talk about what we want to do, or what we plan to do, we use a special verb form. This special form is called the infinitive. Think of it as the basic form of the verb, usually with to before it. For example, to eat, to sleep, to play. We use infinitives in English in a few important ways. One common way is after certain verbs. Imagine you were talking to a friend, Maya. Maya might say, "I want to visit the new park. I hope to see you there. I decided to learn guitar." See how to visit, to see, and to learn come right after want, hope, and decided. This is a very important rule. Some verbs always want the infinitive form when another verb follows them. They are like a team that always asks for the plus verb. Let's look at some of these verbs. Verbs that love infinitives. Some verbs naturally want to be followed by an infinitive. They are like good friends who always bring to with them. Want, this means you wish for something. I want to eat pizza tonight. I wish for eating pizza. She wants to buy a new book. She wishes for buying a new book. Hope, this means you wish for something good to happen. We hope to win the game. We wish for winning the game. He hopes to get a good grade. He wishes for getting a good grade. Decide, this means you make a choice. They decided to go home early. They made a choice about going home. I decided to study harder. I made a choice about studying harder. Plan. This means you think about what you will do in the future. We plan to travel next summer. We think about traveling. She plans to finish her project by Friday. She thinks about finishing her project. Agree. This means you have the same opinion as someone else. He agreed to help me with my homework. He had the same opinion about helping me. They agreed to meet at noon. They had the same opinion about meeting at noon. Refuse. This means you say no to something. The cat refused to eat its food. The cat said no to eating its food. She refused to answer the question. She said no to answering the question. Promise. This means you say you will definitely do something. I promise to be on time. I say I will definitely be on time. He promised to call me later. He said he would definitely call me. Seem, this is how something appears to be. It seems to rain later. It looks like it will rain. She seems to understand the lesson. She looks like she understands. Appear, this is like seem. It's how something looks or is presented. The package appeared to be damaged. The package looked damaged. He appeared to be happy. He looked happy. These verbs are like good friends to the infinitive. They always invite it. When you see these verbs, you can be quite sure the next verb will be to plus verb. Why this matters? The small difference. You might ask, why can't I use the ing form sometimes? Well, with these specific verbs, the infinitive is the correct and natural choice. Using an ing form as a noun after these verbs would sound strange or wrong. For example, if Mia said, I want visiting the new park, it wouldn't sound quite right. The infinitive to visit fits perfectly with want to show a future wish or plan. The infinitive often shows an intention, a future action, or a goal. Infinitives after adjectives. Adding more detail, infinitives also do a great job of giving us more information about adjectives. Adjectives are words that describe nouns like happy, difficult, easy, ready. When we want to explain why someone is happy or how something is difficult, we often use an infinitive. Think about these examples. I am happy to help you. Here, happy is the adjective. The infinitive to help tells us why I am happy. I am happy because I am going to help. This problem is difficult to solve. Difficult is the adjective. The infinitive to solve explains how it is difficult. It is difficult in the action of solving it. She was eager to learn more. Eager describes her feeling. The infinitive to learn shows what she was eager to do. Are you ready to go? Ready is the adjective. The infinitive to go tells us what you are ready for. This is a very useful pattern. When you see an adjective that describes a feeling, an opinion, or a state, and you want to add what action is connected to that adjective, try using an infinitive. Infinitives after nouns. Showing purpose or desire sometimes, we use infinitives after nouns to explain the purpose or desire related to that noun. It's like adding a small explanation to the noun. Let's look at some examples. I have a desire to travel the world. Desire is a noun. The infinitive to travel explains what kind of desire I have. It's a desire for traveling. He made an attempt to escape. Attempt is a noun. The infinitive to escape tells us what he attempted. He attempted the action of escaping. We have a need to study for the test. Need is a noun. The infinitive to study explains what we need to do. We need the action of studying. This structure helps us be more specific about the noun. It's not just any desire, it's a desire to do something. The most important use, expressing purpose. One of the most common and powerful ways we use infinitives is to explain why we do something. We call this expressing purpose. It answers the question, why did you do that? Think about why people do things every day. They do them for a reason. The infinitive is perfect for telling us that reason. Here's how it works. Action plus to plus purpose verb. Let's see this in action. I went to the store to buy milk. Why did I go to the store? To buy milk. The infinitive to buy tells us the reason for my trip. She studied hard to pass the exam. Why did she study hard? To pass the exam. The infinitive to pass explains her goal. He saved money to buy a new car. Why did he save money? To buy a new car. The infinitive to buy shows the reason for his saving. We are learning English to get better jobs. Why are we learning English? To get better jobs. The infinitive to get explains our reason. This is a basic part of speaking and writing clearly. When you want to tell someone the reason behind your actions, the infinitive is your best friend. You can use it after almost any verb to explain the reason. Infinitives after question words. Indirect questions. This can seem a little tricky at first, but it's very common. When we are not asking a direct question, but we are talking about a question, we often use infinitives after. Words like what, where, when, how, and whether. Let's compare. Direct question. What should I do? Indirect statement. I don't know what to do. Do you see the difference? In the direct question, we use should I do. But in the indirect statement, we use what to do. Here are more examples. She decided where to go on vacation. Instead of, where should she go on vacation? He is thinking about how to solve the problem. Instead of, how should he solve the problem? I can't remember when to arrive. Instead of, when should I arrive? We need to figure out whether to accept the offer. Instead of, should we accept the offer? This structure is very useful when you are talking about choices, decisions, or things you don't know. It makes your sentences flow more smoothly. Putting it all together, so we've seen that infinitives are very useful. They are used 1. After a specific list of verbs like want, hope, decide. 2. To give more information about adjectives like happy to help. 3. To explain the purpose of a noun like a desire to travel. 4. Most importantly, to explain why an action is done to express purpose. 5. In indirect questions after words like what, where, how. Understanding these rules will help you make much clearer and more correct sentences. Remember, the infinitive often points towards a future action, a goal, or a reason. It's like an arrow showing what the verb is aiming for. Now that we've explored the many ways infinitives help us express ourselves, we can look at the other side of this, the gerund. Just as infinitives have their special jobs, gerunds, Ing forms used as nouns have their own important rules and uses. We'll discover how they work and when they are the perfect choice to make our English sound natural and correct. 4. Choosing between gerunds and infinitives. Sometimes, when you speak or write English, you have to choose. You know about verbs ending in ing like swimming. These are called gerunds. You also know about to plus the basic verb like to swim. These are called infinitives. Both can act like nouns, but when do you use one after another verb? It can be tricky, right? Don't worry. This is a common question, and there are clear reasons why we pick one over the other. Think of it like this. The first verb you use often likes one form more. Some verbs are like best friends with gerunds. They almost always want to be followed by an ing word. Others are the opposite. They love to be followed by to and the basic verb. It's not about which form is better. It's about which form fits the meaning and the feeling of the verb that comes before it. Let's look at an easy example. Imagine you were talking about something you like. We use the verb enjoy. Do we say I enjoy to swim or I enjoy swimming? If you have heard people who speak English well, you know it's I enjoy swimming. The verb enjoy likes gerunds. It likes the idea of the activity itself, the action that is happening. It's like saying, I feel happy from the act of swimming. Now, think about wanting something. We use the verb want. Do we say I want swimming or I want to swim? We say, I want to swim. The verb want likes infinitives. It often points to an action that will happen later or a goal. It's like saying, my wish is for the future action of swimming. So, the first big idea is that the verb that comes before the gerund or infinitive is the boss. It tells you which form to use. We can't just guess. Verbs that like gerunds are happy with the ing form. They often talk about things we like, dislike, finish, or stay away from. Verbs that like infinitives prefer the to plus verb form. They often talk about plans, decisions, hopes, or reasons. This is not a strict rule for every single verb in English, but it's a very strong pattern that helps us understand the choice. It's like a helpful guide. Let's look closer at this idea. Gerunds often feel like a general idea or something that is finished. When you say swimming is good exercise, you are talking about swimming as an activity in general. It's a noun, a thing. When you say I love swimming, you are talking about how much you like that general activity. Infinitives, on the other hand, often point to a specific plan, something that will happen later, or a purpose. If you say, I need to swim, you are talking about a specific action you plan to do. It's about a future need. If you say, I went to the pool to swim, the infinitive to swim tells us the reason for going to the pool. This difference in meaning helps us understand why the verb before it makes a choice. Verbs like, love, hate, dislike, enjoy, finish, avoid, and consider often deal with general feelings or finished actions, so they tend to use gerunds. She finished reading the book. The action of reading is done. He avoids talking to his boss. He doesn't want to do the action of talking. I consider moving to a new city. I am thinking about the general idea of moving. Verbs like want, hope, plan, decide, need, agree, and promise often deal with future plans or intentions, so they tend to use infinitives. They plan to travel next summer. A future intention. He decided to study medicine. A decision about a future action. She agreed to help me with my project. A promise about a future action. Now, there's a very helpful clue that can help you make the right choice, especially when you're not sure. It's all about prepositions. If you see a preposition like at, in, on, about, for, to, with right after the main verb, the word that follows is almost always going to be a gerund. Think about the preposition at. When you say someone is good at something, you always follow it with an ing word. For example, Maria is good at playing the guitar. You wouldn't say Maria is good at to play the guitar. The preposition that acts like a small connector that holds onto the verb and turns it into the ing form. Let's look at other prepositions. Think about, I'm thinking about changing my job. Not thinking about to change. The preposition about makes us use the gerund. Look forward to. This one can be a little confusing because to is often part of the infinitive. But here to is a preposition. So, I look forward to seeing you soon. Not look forward to see. This is a very common one to remember. Insist on. He insisted on paying for the meal. Not insisted on to pay. The preposition on requires the gerund. Apologize for. She apologized for being late. Not apologized for to be. Why does this happen? Prepositions are words that show how one word relates to another in the sentence. They often show where something is, where it's going, or when it is. When a verb follows a preposition, it often acts more like a noun, describing the thing the preposition is related to. The ing form gerund is perfect for this noun-like role. The preposition basically locks in the gerund. Another very common and helpful pattern involves a specific sentence structure, verb plus object plus infinitive. This structure is used when one person is telling, asking, advising, or allowing another person to do something. Let's take the example, my mom told me to clean my room. Here, the main verb is told. The object is me. And what did she tell me to do? To clean my room. Notice that told is followed by an object me and then the infinitive to clean. We don't say my mom told me cleaning my room. That sounds strange, doesn't it? This pattern is very common with verbs that express a command, request, or permission. Ask someone to. The teacher asked us to be quiet. Not asked us being quiet. Advise someone to. My doctor advised me to rest more. Not advised me resting. Allow someone to. The rules allow students to use calculators. Not allow students using. Tell someone to. I told him to wait here. Not told him waiting. Remind someone to. Please remind me to buy milk. Not remind me buying. Invite someone to. They invited us to their party. Not invited us their party. So, when you see a sentence where one person is influencing another person's action, and you have a verb like tell, ask, advise, or allow, look for that structure. Verb plus object plus infinitive. Let's think about the questions we've touched upon. How does the meaning of the main verb affect the choice? The main verb sets the tone and the direction of the action. If the verb expresses a general liking or disliking of an activity, like enjoy or hate, it's focusing on the feeling about the activity itself. The gerund, with its ing ending, represents that activity as a noun, a thing to be felt about. I hate waiting in line. The waiting is the thing I dislike. If the verb expresses a future plan, a decision, or a hope, like plan or hope, it's looking forward. The infinitive, with its to and basic verb, naturally points towards a future action or a goal. I hope to see you soon. The to see is the future event I am hoping for. Consider the verb suggest. Does it feel more like a general idea or a specific future action? He suggested going to the park. The gerund going feels right because it presents the idea of going as a suggestion, a concept. It's not a command to go, but an idea about going. Now, what about verbs that seem to fit both? Like, or start. We can say I like swimming and I like to swim. We can say she started laughing and she started to laugh. This is where the meaning changes a little. When a verb can take either a gerund or an infinitive, there's often a slight difference in meaning, or sometimes there's no difference at all. Like, love, hate, prefer. When these verbs are about general feelings, they often take gerunds. I love reading. When they are about a specific situation or a decision, they might take an infinitive. I love to read by the fire on a cold night. This emphasizes the specific enjoyment of that action in that situation. Often, though, for these verbs, both are perfectly fine and mean almost the same thing. Start, begin, continue. These verbs often take either a gerund or an infinitive without a big change in meaning. The rain started falling. The rain started to fall. Both are correct and mean the same thing. They simply show that an action began. So, while there are general tendencies, some verbs are more flexible. For these flexible verbs, learning common phrases and listening to how native speakers use them is very helpful. Let's go back to those grammatical clues. We talked about prepositions being a strong sign for gerunds. What about the structure verb plus object plus infinitive? This is a sign for infinitives. Are there other clues? Yes, the purpose of the sentence often guides us. If you are explaining why you did something, you often use an infinitive. I studied hard to pass the exam. The infinitive to pass explains the reason for studying. She went to the store to buy some bread. The infinitive to buy explains why she went to the store. This infinitive of purpose is a very important use of the infinitive. It answers the question, why? So, to summarize the clues. 1. The main verb's preference. Most verbs strongly prefer either gerunds or infinitives. Remembering these common preferences is important. 2. Prepositions. If a preposition comes after the main verb, it's almost always followed by a gerund. Remember, look forward to is a special case where to is a preposition. 3. Verb plus object plus infinitive. This structure is common for verbs that involve telling, asking, or allowing someone to do something. 4. Purpose. If you are explaining why an action is done, you often use an infinitive. Let's imagine a situation. You were talking to your friend Sarah. You want to tell her about your weekend plans. I'm thinking about. Conclusion. You have finished mastering English verb forms, gerunds, and infinitives. Think back to when you first opened this book. Maybe choosing between an ing word and a to+verb word felt like a puzzle. Maybe it made you pause when you spoke or wrote. Our goal was simple: to make this common English grammar point easy to understand. We wanted to give you clear rules, helpful examples, and the confidence to use gerunds and infinitives the right way. You spent your time and effort learning these important verb forms. That work is the biggest step to becoming good at them. Now, let's think about what we learned and how you can keep building on it. In this book, we looked at gerunds, the ing form of a verb used like a noun, and infinitives, the to+verb form. We saw how these two forms, even though they can look alike, do different jobs in our sentences. Do you remember when we talked about gerunds? We learned they work like nouns. This means they can start a sentence: swimming is fun, come after a verb I enjoy reading, or come after a small word like at or in she is good at drawing. We also learned the lists of verbs that always need a gerund after them, like enjoy, finish, mind, suggest. We also covered the small words that tell you to use a gerund. On the other hand, infinitives to +verb are useful in different ways. They often show why you are doing something. I came here to learn. They are used after some describing words. It's important to listen. And, very importantly, they are used after certain verbs like want, decide, hope, plan. We studied the verbs that usually need an infinitive after them, giving you clear patterns to follow. We also looked at times when both forms might seem possible, like with verbs such as like, love, hate, start, begin, continue. We explained the small differences in meaning that can happen, so you can choose the best form. Now that you understand gerunds and infinitives well, you can speak and write English more smoothly and naturally. You won't have to stop and wonder, should I using or to? This knowledge helps you make fewer mistakes. When you use the correct form, your sentences sound better and more skilled. This accuracy makes you feel more confident, helping you say what you mean more easily and with better results. Knowing these forms also helps you understand English better. You will be able to understand the small differences in meaning in spoken and written English, noticing how gerunds and infinitives can change what something means. Becoming good at gerunds and infinitives is a big step. It is a key part that will make learning more grammar easier because you have already learned one of the harder parts of English verb use. Learning is something you do all the time. The best way to make sure you remember gerunds and infinitives is to practice often. Don't let this knowledge just sit there. In your everyday talks, try to notice when you are using gerunds and infinitives. Try to use a new verb from the lists we share each week. For example, if you learned that suggest needs a gerund, try to use it in a sentence like, I suggest ordering pizza tonight. When you write, like in emails, school papers, or even posts online, look at your sentences. Ask yourself, is this ending word acting like a noun? Is this a to+verb word showing why I'm doing something? Check your writing specifically for your use of ing and to+verb forms. Read a lot. As you read books, articles, and websites, pay attention to how people who speak English well use gerunds and infinitives. Notice the verbs that come before them and the situations they are used in. Seeing and hearing them often helps you remember what you learned. Listen carefully. When you watch movies, TV shows, or listen to podcasts, focus on these verb forms. Try to notice when a gerund or infinitive is used and why. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is a chance to learn and get better. If someone corrects you, or if you find out you used the wrong form, remember it and try to use the correct one next time. This book is here to help you. Feel free to look back at chapters or exercises when you are not sure. Looking back often helps you remember things for a long time. You now have a strong skill for mastering English verb forms. Being able to choose well between ger